Right, welcome to the March 15th, 2023 meeting of the Conservation Commission. Consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. As usual, continue to check the agenda, the city's calendar for the updated Zoom link and call-in information. Start with a roll call of commissioners present. Member Charpentier.
Here, finally.
Member Cook.
Here.
Member Gradwell.
Here.
Member Sargent.
Here.
Member Sherman.
Here.
Member Gullah.
Here, I'm the grass background. I don't know what happens. My apologies.
And Member Jackson.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Excellent. Okay, first up tonight is administrative briefing. What do we have there, Chuck? Anything to talk about?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. I'm gonna throw something out there again. We started talking about it before everyone else came on, is the piping plover aspect. Again, it's always been a little chaotic when it happens, so I look into that and who's really responsible. It's floated around for years between DP, I believe at one time the municipal services did it, and we've done the flags. You got to put the stakes in the ground, put the ropes up, and the signage. So I don't know who's responsible for that, but it's going to come soon. So be prepared.
Yeah, DPW has been in charge of it. We have reached out to them to offer our assistance and haven't heard back from them. So we're trying to connect there. See what happens.
Thank you. That's all you can do. Okay, next up is the public comment period of the meeting. This is the period where the public is welcome to speak towards conservation related issues that are not, I repeat, not on tonight's agenda. If you'd like to speak, you may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hit *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 13 attendees and I'm not seeing any hands up.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, close public comment period. Next up will be minutes review and approval for March 1, 2023. I think we have a quorum, so I think we can go move this.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the Conservation Commission minutes of March 1st, 2023 as amended.
Charpentier seconds.
Roll call. Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Member Cook. Oh, you're muted.
Yes.
Member Gradwell.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Sherman.
Yes.
Member Gullah.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along, we have minutes review and approval. We're up onto continued business. We have notice of intent 20-2884-284 Atlantic Road, Stephen Klaus, construction of retaining wall in existing yard, removal of deteriorated fieldstone wall in coastal bank, coastal beach, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Margaret Tennyson, Environmental Consultants LLC, has requested to continue to April 5th, 2023.
And I should have changed that. That was previously approved request. So
that's good to go. Next up is notice of intent 28-2827, 105 Wingersheek Roads, Lot A and Lot B, 125 Wingersheek LLC, Joel Pavaza, Legal Seaside Solutions representing.
Rob, are you recusing?
Yes, if they actually are going to be, yeah. So I'll be recusing. I thought it was
Okay, that's okay.
shutting off.
All right. Is Mr. Favaza here?
Yes.
Okay, would you just name and address for the record, please, and summarize the new developments?
Sure. So for the record, my name is Joel Favaza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions at 123 Main Street here in Gloucester. I am here on behalf of 125 Wingersheek LLC, the owning entity of 105 Wingersheek Road. It's been quite a few weeks since we last discussed this. It has been due to a lot of good, hard work happening on the site. As you recall, we've gone through basically 2 rounds of review with Beals and Thomas. And at the end of the last review, one of the large outstanding questions was, we were working off of a dune delineation, and specifically a primary frontal dune delineation that had arguably become a bit stale. It was kind of the historic location of the dune when this property was first coming to you for permitting in 2019, I think. So B&T suggested, requested that we hire a coastal geologist. We hired Dwight Dunk at Epsilon Associates Incorporated. They went out and performed the actual transect surveys that were requested or recommended by B&T. And as a result of that, as one might imagine, the location of the dunes had shifted, and the line of the primary frontal dune had shifted on the site. So that line was redrawn. The effect was actually on what we call Lot B, which is, if you're looking at the plan, is the right-hand house. That house was okay to stay where it was planned in the orientation it was planned. What is considered Lot A, which would be the left side of the plan as you look at it, that house had to be shunted further back a considerable distance because the primary frontal dune line had really crept up on that part of the property. So only earlier today, and I don't expect any of you to have had a chance to peek at it, and that's why I'm not looking for any sort of major discussion tonight. I just wanted to bring you up to speed. We submitted a formal written response to B&T's outstanding concerns and questions directly from Epsilon. We submitted revised site plans that show the same structures we've been talking about. It's the same size houses, same configuration, same concept as far as putting them on piles 2 feet above the top of the dune. And that was all submitted earlier today. And so it's our cautiously optimistic hope that between the work we've done with Seacamp Environmental, that was the environmental engineer, the work that we've done with Gateway Consultants, they are the civil engineer of the project, and now this additional work with Epsilon and Dwight Dunk, the coastal geologist at Epsilon, that we have checked kind of the myriad of boxes laid out before us by B&T's review. When you get a chance to review Epsilon's response, you'll see that in their opinion, which again is shared by the other experts on the team, that all pertinent performance standards for construction out on a coastal dune have been met. Again, we'll go over that in more detail later, but the big tickets are making sure that there's no adverse effect to lateral movement of the dune, that you're not removing any soils or altering the composition of any soils. And as we discussed last time, per usual, we have offered the usual 2-to-1 ratio of mitigation plantings, and those were beefed up by Mike Seacamp last time around to not just be dune grass, which is the original proposal, but actually a blend of dune grass, shrubs and small trees that can survive on the dune environment. So again, cautiously optimistic. I think we've gone and taken care of the outstanding issues that were still raising B&T's eyebrows. Our hope is that this will get forwarded over to B&T, and if they have any questions between now and the next Conservation Commission meeting, my team remains open and willing to have a quick meeting to discuss to see if there's any other adjustments they're looking to see. And then I would really love to come back in, I guess, 3 weeks on the 5th, and hopefully have everyone marching in the same beat. B&T, our whole team, you guys, me, we might actually get on the same page at long last on this project. So that's my update for now. And with that, I guess I would just request a continuance out to the 5th to allow B&T time to review and the commission time to review.
Okay. All right, let's open this up to the public for public comment. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to comment on this project?
We currently have 13 attendees, and I'm not seeing any hands up.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We go through roll call for commissioner comments, and I'd like to know if people have had an opportunity to review the material recently sent
I
today.
don't believe, yeah, I think it was just sent to you and I. I don't think it was sent to any other commissioners at this point.
Oh, okay. All right. Then could we go through commissioner comments, after which I will entertain a motion for continuation?
Yeah, member Charpentier,
No comment.
member Cook,
No comments.
member Gradwell. You're muted.
No comment. No
Member Sargent.
comment.
No comment.
Member Sherman
No comments.
and member Jackson.
My only comment is, Mr. Favazza, I will not be available on April 5th, and Mr. Gullah is recused. So it's up to you whether you want to choose to go to April 19th or stick with April 5th.
I think given the time constraints at hand, and the confidence in the plan to put forward, we're okay to move forward on the 5th.
Okay,
Questions, we'll use that as advice to move on to the 19th, but I think for now, we're okay with the 5th, even in your absence. We'll miss you.
okay. Chuck, did you have anything to add to this discussion?
Haven't had a chance to look at the newsletter yet, so.
Okay. All right, in that case, I'll entertain a motion for 105 Wingersheep Road to be continued to the meeting of April 5th.
Charpentier move to. Where are we here?
0282827 105 Wingersheep, second hearing.
Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282827 105 Wingus Road to the meeting of April 5th.
Barry,
Need a second?
muted.
Gradwell seconds.
Okay,
Call member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
Yes.
member Gradwell,
Yes.
member Sargent,
Yes.
member Sherman,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
yes. Okay,
Thank you.
then they will see you on the 5th.
Okay, enjoy your time off.
And I'll be flying. Okay, Rob, you coming back?
I'm still grayed out and back, so, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, all right, that's okay. We hear your voice.
Okay, next up then would be notice of intent 0282900 337 Concord Street, Jeffrey Roberts, construction of a farm pond for irrigation and fire protection within buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and and ACEC. Anthony Capichetti, Hayes Engineering representing.
Okay, and Commissioner Cook is recusing from this.
Mr. Capichetti here.
Should be moving to panelists now.
So
Tony?
I apologize. I'm having some issues getting on my computer, so I'm on my phone trying to navigate here. So if it's okay with the speaker, I'll go through the presentation briefly, and we can go from there.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. So Tony Capichetti, Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street, here representing VQ Realty Trust. The project before you is for a farm pond under a limited project exemption. The pond itself is to be used for fire protection purposes, which is an allowed use. And we're looking for some minor irrigation purposes for filling some, I believe some of you were on the site walk. There were these plastic containers, they hold about a cubic yard of water that get pulled on the tractor for irrigating some of the crops. Not its primary purpose, the fire protection is its primary purpose. We received some DEP comments that we had responded to. I had spoken to Pamela Merrill, and she is not going to issue a second set of comments. We had asked her about that. She said that if they disagree with the determination of the commission, they would appeal it themselves, or if the commission doesn't move forward on it, we would have the right to appeal, but we had to provide the information that they were seeking in the comments. And some of those comments were whether there was an intermittent stream, and there is no intermittent stream. This project has been permitted under a previous notice of intent. That permitted project did not determine an intermittent stream in the house, and the fields were all in the buffer zone of the wetland in question. They asked about tree clearing, and we did work with an arborist, Dan Provost, who is also here on the call, that could answer some questions. We tried to save the specimen trees to the maximum extent practicable. And we used an old pond area that was previously used for the historic farm here. So the mature vegetation was pretty limited within the wetland itself. There's some areas of standing water during a high groundwater within the wetland that limit the amount of large trees. And we tried to work around the existing large trees. We provided a figure in our response letter kind of showing that area, and we're also revegetating the areas that are disturbed. Again, this is proposed under the limited project exemption under 310-1053-3G. And there was a question whether or not we needed a NRCS conservation plan for this work. Because it's not under the agricultural exemption, we do not. But we did file an NRCS conservation plan under the previous order of conditions on this project, which allowed for the construction of the fields and some of the other issues on site. We selected this site to minimize disturbance based off of the lack of viable alternatives. First one being connect to the municipal water supply, which there is not one within a mile from the site. We also looked at installing additional wells. The wells on this site have all gone have had saltwater intrusion. They've installed a number of wells out here, and then the fire flows coming from the wells would be very difficult to obtain. And then we would also have to store whatever volume we could have for the well. That's about 28,500 gallons of storage that's required, in the pond that we propose is 30,000 gallons to allow for a layer of ice on top and sediment within the bottom. And then it's a matter of getting the water as well. This is pretty much the viable location for collecting the water. It is in the natural valley. So we would be using surface runoff primarily to fill the pond. And it was historically a farm pond in that area. So again, it made good sense to reuse this area. We discussed the sizing of the pond, the downstream hydrology. Right now, that 4-inch pipe doesn't flow. It is broken off in the berm. The top of the berm is 19.5 currently, and that's what we're proposed to keeping the top of the berm. So once the pond is full, the flows that bypass that pond will be similar to what's out there now. We did propose erosion control around the entire site. Just at the existing gravel access road, we allowed some breaks to access the property. There was a question about the two edge of water lines. 19.5 being seasonal high groundwater is where the water ponds to in the spring currently, and 19.5 is also the elevation of the spillway in the berm, and we're proposing that water would stay at 19.5, but just at a larger elevation. So we would be creating about 11,500 square feet of land underwater body as an additional resource area on the site, and then we're replicating VVWs 1-to-1. We had originally selected a New England erosion control restoration mix, which DEP came back and said was not suitable for replication area. The erosion control wetland restoration mix does have a lot of FAC wet as well as obligatory species. However, we've proposed to move on to New England wet mix for seed mixture, and we also have a robust planting plan that was designed by the arborist Dan Provost. And then additional permits, we know that after post-order conditions, we would need to go for a 401 water quality cert and the Army Corps 404 general permit. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer them for you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll open up for public comment. At this time, anyone in the public is welcome to speak for or against the project at 337. Oops, got my sheet over the wrong way. at 337 Concord Street. Anyone who wishes to speak now might do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Currently have 13 attendees, and I'm not seeing any hands up.
Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. I guess we go to roll call commissioner comments.
Carpenter,
No comments?
Member Cook. Oh, he's refused. Member Gradwell,
No comment.
Member Sergeant,
I'm wondering if it's possible to lessen the design capacity of the fire pond to lessen impacts to the BVW. And if it's approved, I'd like a condition that there be a 2-year monitoring for all vegetation around the pond below elevation 22. Thank you.
Member Sherman,
Having visited the site and reading the DEP comments and the alternative analysis, I'm of the opinion that there are alternatives to this proposed pond. I believe that, as I've stated in recent meetings, directly in the act states that bordering vegetated wetlands are the Commonwealth's most important inland wildlife habitat. I believe the essentially destruction of this BVW for this purpose is unnecessary. There are several sites, I believe, on this property that have already been disturbed that are not vegetated by anything more than turf grass that may be more costly to do that or might be more difficult. But I believe that it would be a sacrifice that does not need to be made on this property for this purpose.
Member Gullo,
I think I agree with Mr. Sherman. I'm not sure, even though I think they've done a really good job, it seems to me to be somewhat unnecessary to destroy something only to fix it again, other than just, I mean, the plans are great, but I mean, why can't it just be left alone? I kind of feel the same way. But that being said, I'm really kind of in the middle on this one because there has been a fair amount of work to, mitigate, but it is like Mr. Commissioner Sherman saying, it just seems to be, there's got to be, unless they've been exhausted, other opportunities here to save this BVW. That's it for me.
Member Jackson,
Yeah, I don't think we can disagree with the concept of the need for a fire pond, but I was not on the site visit, so I don't know if there are alternatives. I would like the applicant to review the depth and surface area and the volume again. And it would be nice to have had the responses to DEP in writing. And do we usually have the other permits in place before we vote or not? I just don't remember the protocol. That's it.
All right, so that's the commissioners are spoken. You can respond to those comments. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. So the size of the pond is based, I'm just going to go in order from each of the commissioners, if you don't mind. The size of the pond is based upon the fire code. NFPA 1142 governs storage of firefighting in suburban and rural areas. So the requirements for that are based on the volume of the structure as to how much needs to be stored. So that's how we came up with 28,500 gallons as the requirement. Now, you don't want to put the intake at the very bottom because there is still sediment that comes through the wetlands that will, we provided a storage volume at the bottom. And then during freezing conditions, you lose some volume. You're probably looking 9 inches to a foot of ice. So that top foot, you can't rely on for storage either. So that's how we came up with the depth and the size. And rather trying to go out laterally, we went as deep as possible. However, there is ledge elsewhere on the site. So we went as deep as we thought we could go without encountering ledge that, you know, obviously we don't want to have to blast as a result. We've done some exploratory testing in the vicinity, and that's kind of a natural low point where there's a good pocket of soil there. The alternatives, we did look on site, and I do understand what Mr. Sherman's saying about there's a large field. That, unfortunately, that's kind of at the top of a saddle. So none of the water flows into that area. So to fill the pond, we'd still need something to regularly keep that pond filled. And 30,000 gallons is close to 3/4 of a year of water use on the site. And where we've had a number of wells with saltwater intrusion, you know, we'd be destroying another drinking water well at the site. The purpose, like I said, is fire protection. It's almost 2,000 feet to the road. So if there was a fire in this at this establishment, you're talking 2,000 feet just to get the pump trucks down there. There's no option for fire hydrants in the area, and there's an adjacent seasonal residential development that's just on this other side of the hill that would be willing to, you know, as further mitigation. Not that the fire department requires any sort of easement. We'd be willing to give them rights to draw off of this pond for other fires as well. I believe just by state statute they have the right to do so. And I apologize if you didn't receive the letter, because we did provide it to the conservation office. Actually, the response was addressed to the chairs of the co-chairs of the commission and sent to Chuck, and we actually CC'd DEP. It wasn't a direct response letter to DEP because they said that the commission acts as their agent, so we would have to work through you. But we did kind of look through the site, and the disturbance, again, this is a previously disturbed area. We do believe it meets the limited project requirements. We've done a considerable amount of work on the site previously, as has been discussed, and this is something that, you know, we had evaluated, and as far as maintaining a water budget and having the least amount of impact to water budgets, and instead of redirecting existing flows away from the wetlands, this does disturb a wetland to recreate one, but not only are you recreating the wetland, you're also providing land under water body, which will actually be more additional beneficial habitat in this area. So most of the time, this pond will be left dormant because we're hoping that there's never a fire, but it is a safety issue, and that's why we've proposed it.
Okay. It's up to you, Mr. Cavachetti. I'm not sure. It's up to you whether or not you want us to go for a vote. I wouldn't mind one more week to absorb this information. I mean, one more meeting if if you're open to it. But you have the right to request a vote one way or the other tonight. But I would like just a little more time. It's just, I feel like I might be able to solve this problem, but I haven't been able to yet. I'm having a hard time with the damage to the existing resource for this, but that's me. But if you want to go for a vote, that's completely up to you. Any other commissioners, you're welcome to chime in right now. If you'd like to add some comments or questions from this.
I would like to hear if Chuck has anything further to contribute to this discussion.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I share a lot of the concerns you guys have raised. You know, I think the instruction when we're dealing with this type of a wetland is to avoid, then minimize, and then mitigate. You know, I don't know if we've exhausted the avoidance possibilities. The size of this does seem quite large. You know, my calculations show this to be well above the 28,500 gallons that are being asked for. There's nothing been given to us in many of the materials that actually tell us what the volume of this is. We don't have any cross sections of this pond. It just, from what I've calculated, this seems quite a bit larger or just magnitude of the 28,500. And then, you know, as far as the mitigation goes, you know, you're showing areas on your mitigation that range from elevation 13 to elevation 23, which is going to put some of that vegetation 6.5 feet underwater and other portions of it 3.5 feet above water. And so I'm not sure how you're going to get hydric soils throughout that area to actually create a one-to-one mitigation of bordering vegetated wetland. It looks to be more that you're creating open water with upland. There might be some hydric soil around the actual pond, but then that's going to be fluctuating. You're also talking about, you know, doing maintenance of the vegetation in that area. So, you know, you're not creating a wetland that is going to be just a wild natural area. It's going to be maintained for a large portion of it. Like you know, to consider that one-to-one mitigation, I really struggle with that. You know, it seems like there needs to be a lot more detail in there about how you're going to maintain that hydrology, how you're going to have the soils actually become hydric soils.
So one thing that we did look at is the downstream section of the wetlands is heavily loaded with Phragmites. I just didn't want to propose additional wetland disturbance, but we could look at adding additional compensatory BVW in that downstream area and removing the heavy presence of Phragmites, if that's something that the commission would look favorable upon. And I can provide the other additional information that you asked for with the volume table and give you a couple of profiles going through the pond.
Yeah, Mr. Captain, anything more you could give us? I mean, this is a big ask for a conservation commission, this kind of stuff. It's you know, a very important resource for us, so we get really concerned about this kind of thing being done. So if you at a minimum could just give us, like you said, fill in some of those gaps that the agent mentioned, if there's another couple weeks. That would be helpful. I'm also not ignoring Mr. Provost. His hand is up. I got that. I don't think we really need him at this point. I don't.
So what I would ask from the commission is because we're not quite up against it yet, but you know, this is something that would have to be done during the dry season in August. So if the commission has specific questions beyond this meeting, if possibly they could be sent to Chuck so we can try and be as comprehensive as possible and wrap this up one way or the other at the next meeting. I don't want to provide, you know, not provide enough information, and I respect everything that you're asking for.
That's fair.
But
I can tell you right now, there's still a lot of concern on this board. You know, cleared up some loose ends, which are great. We've done more, but it's still a concern for this board. I could work for myself. Anyways, so yeah, if anybody on the you know, any of the other commissioners have pointed questions, we can direct them straight to, you know, even by an email to Chuck, so he can get them to Mr. Capichetti. That'd be helpful. But yeah, I appreciate another couple of weeks if that's okay.
I think that's fair. I'd just like to be able to present all the information at the next meeting to hopefully advance things a little bit more than we've done tonight.
Excellent. Okay, I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else, commissioners? Otherwise, I guess we're going to move to continue.
And Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282900 at 337 Concord Street to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 5th.
Charpentier seconds?
We'll call on Member Charpentier,
Yes.
Member Gradwall,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Sherman.
Yes.
Member Gullah.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes.
Also, for the record, Mr. Capichetti, just to let you know, Angel Jackson, my co-chair, she will not be at that meeting. So we will have more than likely 6 commissioners, but I just want to let you know you'd be down 1.
Actually, you'll only have 5 because Bill recuses on this.
Oh, that's right. So, if you need to continue again, if you don't like the numbers or in terms of,
Sure.
we
I-
can do.
I'll spend some time and discuss that with the applicant, but I'd like to try and keep on track for getting the questions and response. So if we do have to continue, at least that'll give the board some additional time to review the materials.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Next
for the record, Commissioner Cook's returning.
Okay, Mr. Cook is in the house. All right, so we're next up, we're moving on to amendment, notice of intent, 0282833, 39R Nashua Avenue, Robert Stern. Amendment to NOI 0282833 to widen access road in buffer zone to coastal resource area and land subject to coastal storm flowage.
And Mr. Farady has requested to continue to the April, but
April 5th is going to be a busy day.
One to miss.
Want to move that to continue it?
Yep, Commissioner Jackson moves to continue amendment for NOI 0282833, 39R Nashua Avenue to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 5th.
Ms. Charpentier seconds?
call member Charpentier,
Yes?
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell,
yes,
member Sergeant,
yes,
member Sherman,
Yes,
member Bella,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes,
Okay, next up is notice of intent, no DEP number 159 and 169A East Main Street. Phil Dunn, NSD Real Estate LLC, construction of parking area, patio, and building renovations inland subject to coastal storm flowage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tony Capichetti with Hayes Engineering, representing the applicant NSD Real Estate.
Yep.
This site is an existing mixed-use building. It's first floor commercial, second floor residential, and the applicant is seeking to rehabilitate the building and restore the first floor to a working commercial area, and then rent out the upstairs residential use. In doing so, we looked at a number of alternatives to get ADA access to the building from the front. We dealt with the DPW about possibly moving the curb, providing on-street handicap parking, and it was determined that was not the best course of action. So we came back, and what we're doing is seeking to adjust the grade by 3.5 feet or so at the corner of the building, so we can get a handicap accessible spot. And then once we get past that spot, we try and go back down to existing grade at about 5%. It's in an existing way, and we did a site walk. The area is currently wholly impervious. It's pavement. There is some weeds growing through the cracks in the pavement, but it is a paved area. We're going to be removing majority of that pavement, maintaining only what's necessary for the way, which also acts as utility easement for DPW. There's a drain and a sewer that run through that. We would be adjusting the rims to grade, providing watertight sealed rims in those areas. And then the area that we're converting back to lawn is planned to be planted with the New England coastal salt tolerant grass mix. And then we've proposed a number of pitch pines and pin oaks throughout the area because those are also a salt tolerant species, do well on the coast, to revegetate that area, which will decrease the amount of runoff coming from the site. And the decrease in pavement is also an improvement within the land subject to coastal storm flowage. There is no compensatory storage requirement or compensatory storage required to be constructed because it is land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's the storm surge from the Atlantic Ocean. We have no DEP file number at this point in time. I don't know why. We've submitted quite some time ago, but DEP is in the process of, or they've moved offices, but I've reached out today to see if they've got the application, but I'd like to address any questions as we, as the board or the public may have.
That's fine. Oh, now I'm gone.
You're there, just upside down.
What's going on? Anyways. Okay, let's open it up to public comment. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Currently have 7 attendees and there are no hands up.
Okay. So with that, then we'll move to commit roll call comment. Seeing none, hearing none, a closed public comment period, and we move on to roll call commissioner comment.
Member Charpentier.
The only thing I want to say is that the site walk was really helpful to put this whole thing in perspective. I support the project and it's too bad we can't vote on it today.
Member Cook.
Just what Linda said, no comments.
Member Gradwell.
No comment, everything's fine.
Member Sargent.
Yes, I also want to thank you for a meaningful site visit. Thank you.
I'm just wondering if the chairman was standing on his head when he was at the site visit.
I actually went on my own. It was, once you saw it, you understood it. It was much, it was good to see. But I did not go with the group, as you know, but very funny. Okay.
Member Jackson.
I like the new plan a lot better than the old one. I was not able to attend the site visit. I do think we need to address herbicides, pesticides, if they're going to be used that close to the water.
Okay, so I guess from what we're hearing, Mr. Capichetti, the only thing we really need to discuss is herbicides near the water.
We'd be more than happy to take a condition that prohibited the use of herbicides, pesticides, and nitrogen-containing fertilizers on the site.
Thank you.
Okay, unless, are there any, Chuck, do you have anything to add to this?
I don't know if Mr. Sargent has asked for his usual 2-year monitoring for plantings.
Obviously.
Okay. So we have to continue, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 028 unassigned DEP number for 159 and 169 A East Main Street to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 5th.
Ms. Charpentier seconds?
Call Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Cook.
Yes,
Member Gradwell.
Yes,
Member Sargent.
Yes,
Member Sherman.
Yes,
Member Bella.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. And so unfortunately, we can't do anything tonight.
No, understood. I appreciate your time, and as soon as we have a DEP file number, we'll look forward to coming back in front of the board.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, again, recusing from this one, Angel, can you just?
Yep. Next up is NOI 028. Did we get a DEP number on this?
No.
We did not.
No, okay. Unassigned DEP number 40 Thurston Point, James and Linda Hemian, demolition of existing dwelling and construction of single-family home in riverfront area, buffer zone to coastal resource area, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. John Dick representing. Do we have the representative?
Don't see him. We only have 5 attendees. He did indicate in an email that he was going to continue because of there's not being a number. He said he was going to be present to do so, but he is not here. So
Shall we table it and then come back to it and continue it later?
sure, unless we just want to continue it to the next meeting. I believe he's just waiting to get the number.
Yeah, if he had planned on showing up, I didn't want to deprive him of the opportunity.
Sure.
Okay, why don't we table 40 Thurston Point? Rob, you can come back.
And also, just for the record and the chaos of starting this meeting with all our technical issues, I did read the 35 minutes that I missed from the last meeting to be prepared for this meeting. I just want to get that on the record as well. And now we're moving on to RDA 1763 638 Washington Street, Timothy J. Ott, replacement of existing deck with addition to single-family house and a new deck construction of riverfront area in buffer zone to coastal resource area. John Judd at Gateway Consultants, Inc. represent.
Voting now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing TJ Ott for this project at 638 Washington Street. This is the resource areas associated with this project are, thank you, Chuck. It looks like he's putting up the plan. This is an existing single-family house on Washington Street opposite Goose Cove. And the proposal is to expand the existing deck from at the rear of the house. So the resource areas for this project are basically the outer riparian zone to the Annisquam River, which is to the top right of the screen. There's an existing property, residential property, that separates this lot from the river, as you can see there. Thank you. So it's an expansion, a 6 foot wide expansion of the deck that would go the length of the house. The project has been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we would be fortifying the work with a staked erosion control fence along the property line, but everything is well outside 100 feet from the riparian zone. We are also looking to replace the existing deck. That's a 4 by 8 foot deck that exists there. That would have a roof on it, and the existing deck would be just replaced by this, so they can have an enclosure to be able to get in the house during weather. And that is a brief description. It is noted on the request that this would be a redevelopment application on an existing disturbed residential lot. And the other thing is the proposed deck would be entirely pervious, as shown on the plan. I can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Judd. First up would be public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 638 Washington Street may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 3 attendees and there are no hands up.
I was scared everyone already. Last week we were packed.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, a close public comment period. Commissioner roll call comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comments.
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Gradwell,
No comment.
Member Sargent.
I'm trying to figure out if it's an enclosed deck, how is it pervious? And you're also expanding a new deck and you're not proposing any mitigation. This is riverfront, and it would be nice to have some mitigation that helped, promote wildlife.
Member Sherman,
Nothing more than what Member Sargent just said.
Member Bella,
Nothing more than what Mrs. Sargent said as well.
and Member Jackson.
And this is where I wish we had listened to you, Chuck, and talked about the riverfront area regulations. I'm wondering if I would like to see mitigation for the increased surface area, even if it's just for the footings. And does this fall under the category of already occupying the required space and needing to make the area better, the riverfront area better somehow? We'd need to know the square footage and the percentage of lot. Do you remember that memo you sent out to us?
I know.
I've got it in front of me. Just DEP.
It's disturbed property.
Okay, redevelopment. They treat if any portion is degraded on a property, they treat the entire site as degraded, therefore it falls under redevelopment. If there is a new lot or none, then it would be looked at under a different section. What does it consider degraded? To determine the 5,000 square feet, the 10% area. Does the house take up at least 10% of the property? And if so, don't we need to make the riverfront better?
Okay, so should I address that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I think everyone spoke, yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You can see that to go back into Mr. Sargent's questions, we are expanding the pervious deck, and I understand that obviously this would have a larger footprint. And we are enclosing not the deck, but the small section of that deck on the corner, not the large deck. That would not be covered and enclosed. So I agree, there is an opportunity here for potentially some mitigation planting along between the proposed work on the right-hand side of that and the riverfront. Despite the fact that there is a disturbed residential property in between the river, there is an opportunity here to add some landscaping here to offset that. It's about 32 square feet of decking that would be enclosed. And then the larger deck expansion would be pervious, but there's also an opportunity to offset some of that as well. So
Can you
we
show
could,
that on the drawing? Can you show that on the drawing, what you just said? Because I think we're having trouble following it.
sure, Chuck, I'm not sure if you want to put that back up, but
Yeah,
you see, yeah, where the cursor is, that's 8 foot by 4, right there. So that's an existing deck that comes in off that's how they gain access from the gravel driveway. So that's what they're looking to enclose as far as putting a roof on to get out of the weather as they come in. And the deck itself, you can see the existing deck, and then what Chuck is showing is the proposed expansion. Again, that's all open pervious deck.
okay. Well, that helps explain it a little bit. Did that answer everybody's questions, or do you have more?
Doesn't answer mine. How is he making the riverfront area better?
Well, so I would agree with Aunt Jo that we can propose to offset that area in between the deck expansion and the property line, because that would not be accessed to allow for some salt tolerant plantings, and we can add that to the plan, or we could provide a planting plan, and TJ can have his landscaper provide something that is more suitable to what I might show.
Okay, so mitigation and betterment.
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
that
okay.
that would be in between the proposed work and the riverfront, so that would be a betterment.
Okay,
Anything
all
else?
right.
That would be wicked nice.
Okay. So do we need to continue, or can we move this? Everyone comfortable with it, with those? Are we gonna add those, or do we need to get a new plan edited and resent to us for the next meeting? What's the
I'd
committee?
like to see a new plan.
Okay. So if the applicant wouldn't mind, we're gonna continue to the next meeting.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. So, Anjo, if you want to continue
Yep.
that?
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue RDA 1763 at 638 Washington Street to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 5th.
Charpentier seconds?
Call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Cook,
Yes,
Member Gradwall,
yes,
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Sherman,
Yes,
Member Gullah,
Yes,
and Member Jackson.
Yes,
excellent.
Okay, thank you. I'll get a new plan in.
Thank you. Next
thank
up,
you, John.
Thanks.
Extension 0282523 Davis Beach Management Plan, Bill Cook, extension of existing OOC for Beach Management Plan, Bill Cook representing.
Okay, this is Bill Cook. First off, I guess officially I recuse from the commission for this. I'm representing the Davis Associates of Wingaeshi Beach. Basically, what this is to manage the access area where we put the Moby mat down. It's a north-facing beach, so we get a lot of, we're actually accumulating, so we get a lot of sand, blows in the access area. It builds up, it blows out in the street. You know, right now, I've probably got about 8 or 10 yards of nice white sand we've piled up from the street that needs to get put back down on the beach also. So we've had this, I mean, we've been doing this since the early 50s. We did put a plan together in 2008 when we realized we needed to have one. And we've been maintaining it ever since. So basically what we do is early in the season, we'll grade the access way down. We push all the sand and we bring it down and put it in the front of the dunes. Basically, if you look at the little map, you'll see where it says the upper dune face. Basically, what we've had across there is a little roadway, and we take the sand and we push it, you know, all the way down on, because we have 400 feet of frontage, so we just fill it all in along the front that way, let it just spill down the front of the dune face, in on both sides. So what we're asking to do is just allow us to continue to do that. Once we access it, we smooth it all out, which our plan right now is, because we've got so much sand accumulated, is to do it before April 1st. And we'll get it, started, and then we'll do it again just prior to Memorial Day. But basically, if you look at the map, you'll see where a section that says excess sand's 25 feet. We did have a big storm in October that actually cut that back. Originally, that upper dune face was a solid cliff from one of the big storms that we had a number of years ago. We built the dune back out, 25 feet is probably about 15 feet now. But we're going to build it back out by putting the sand all along there. As the season goes on, once Memorial Day comes, we place temporary posts all along the dune, the beachfront at the toe of the dune, to keep people from, especially the kids, from climbing up on the dunes and stuff like that. So we maintain that. We put signage out there, everything to keep everybody off the dunes. So there's about 70 families that use this area. So all we're looking for is a 3-year extension on the existing plan.
Okay. I'll open up for public comment. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project, the extension of Davis Beach Management Plan, may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Currently have 3 attendees and there are no hands up.
Seeing none, hearing none, close public comment period. Commissioner roll call comments next.
Member Charpentier,
This is Bill's project of always shoveling sand against the tide, and we voted on it before, so I'm in favor of it.
Gradwell,
I assume that you're not using any machinery on that, Bill?
Say that again?
Not using any machinery?
Yes, we use a tracked Bobcat. To keep it low impact. We don't actually take it down on the beach. If we do have to take it on the beach, the original plan said we were going to use a York rake and rake the beach. But we did that the first year in 2008, and then we've never done it since, because what happens is we get together, just prior to the 4th of July, all the people that live down there, and we manually rake up all the dead grass and stuff. And we place that at the toe of the dune also to further allow it to build up.
Sergeant?
And I'm assuming there's consideration for piping plover habitat in the management plan?
Yes, that's why we don't bring the equipment on the beach. Allow any equipment on the beach after April 1st because of that.
Chairman?
It is a north facing beach, and as I said, we accumulate sand. We're one of the only a couple areas in the state where it actually occurs, so we've never had any piping plovers in our section. The upper beach section, we've had them a couple of years. Used to walk it with Adrian, looking for them, but we hadn't found them in the last number of years. But that's why we don't take any equipment on the beach after April 1st, because of the habitat.
Member Sherman?
I also, this is obviously actual piping plover habitat. Even though there isn't equipment brought on the beach, you know, you're talking about that time between April 1st and Memorial Day is time when piping plovers would be selecting sites for nesting and even foot traffic. I mean, if there isn't someone there that can identify and knows what to look for as far as scratching its nest, it's very easy to destroy piping plover nests in that particular environment.
Member Bella?
No comments that already haven't been stated. The only thing I would add, Bill, is in 3 years, assuming you're either still doing it or you handed it off to somebody else, you might want to go back to coastal zone management and just because we've been rolling this over for years now, things might have changed that we might have missed that might be part of it in the future. So, you know, in 3 years, if we're doing this again, it might be worthwhile to just run it by and make sure things haven't changed in the last prior 3 years. That might require a different way of what you're doing now, that's all. Just,
Okay, I can do that.
all right,
Member Jackson?
Yeah, I support a 3-year extension. I do have some concerns about the plovers and wondered if perhaps a presentation could be made to the association or written material handed out, providing some educational information so that residents are completely aware of this, of the issues with the plover habitat. Otherwise, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I mean, when we have our annual association, I'll bring it up then. And I'll send it out when I send out the annual letter to our membership.
That'd be super, thank you.
okay. Anything to add, Chuck? Okay, with that then, someone want to put forth a motion?
Yes, Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the 3-year extension 0282523 for the Davis Beach Management Plan.
Charpentier seconds?
Call Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Gradwell?
Yes,
Member Sergeant?
Yes,
Sherman?
Yes,
Member Bella?
Yes, with affirmation, all the aforementioned conditions, yeah.
Member Jackson?
Yes,
Okay. You're all set, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, next.
Just for the record, Bill Cook's returning.
Oh, where have you been? Long time no see. Okay, next up, AMD, amendment 0282788 97 Coles Island Road, Julia Barry, amendment to notice of intent 028282788 to include fencing and buffer zone to ACEC and buffer zone to coastal resource area. John Judd at Gateway Consultants, Inc. represent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing Julia Barry and Chris Carty for this property at the end of Coles Island. This is one of the 2 lots, actually 3 lots that they bought. This is almost a 20-acre lot that they're building a small house on. Some of you, I know Bill and I walked the site, and I think Rob, you were out here as well during the initial application. But in any event, the proposal, the house is under construction, the garage and driveway and septic, all under construction or constructed at this point. What you can see is sort of a baseball field diamond that the applicant would like to install a chain link fence. They would be hand digging supports for the posts and installing that as shown. Each segment is about 50 feet long, and they're very concerned about having their dogs out there with all the wildlife, coyotes and so forth out here. So they'd like to have that protection. It's actually an exempt or considered a minor activity, but they felt safer coming before the board with an amendment. And so that's why we're here, and we can answer any questions you might have.
Okay, first up, I'll open up for public comment. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak towards the amendment at 97 Coles Island Road may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Currently have 3 attendees and there are no hands up.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Commissioner roll call comments, please.
Member Charpentier.
I have no comments.
Member Cook. Member Cook.
No comments.
Member Gretel.
Barry, you with us? I think
Lost
it's
him.
frozen. Oh, let's keep going. We have enough.
All right. Member Clark.
I'm wondering how many dogs are there? Is it gonna be a kennel? And how much vegetation will need to be disturbed? And why in that location within the ACEC buffer zone? It looks like with such a large lot, there would be other places to put it. Thank you.
Member Sherman.
No comments.
Member Gullah.
No comment.
And Member Jackson.
I would question the location as well, but it looks to me like you're putting fencing in 2 places, one for the dog enclosure and one to square off the corner of the house, which is where it says proposed 6-foot architectural fence.
You are correct. Are there any other comments or?
I think that Barry, did you have anything else? You froze there for a second. I think you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so starting with Mr. Sargent's questions, the location there is where they, obviously with the vistas facing the left-hand side, that's where the owners will be, in the pool area enjoying that, the views that they purchased out here. And so that's where the most convenient location for them while they're outside. They can just let the dogs out and not have to worry about them taking off throughout the properties. So that was the reasoning for the location on that side of the house. And as far as vegetation, there's no plans for any vegetation to be removed here on either location. As Anjo has pointed out, there's the second squaring off, if you will, of an additional fence that's further outside the ACEC buffer. But there's an existing tree there. You can see we've located the trees that do exist in this sparsely located junipers around, but there's no trees or brush that would be removed in this either location for the installation of the fence. So it comes down to the preference of the homeowner and the convenience of keeping an eye on the dogs while they're out there. There's going to be 2 dogs. It's not going to be a kennel or anything like that. They have 2 small dogs. They just want to make sure that they don't get consumed by a coyote while they're out there. So,
Follow-up question. Obviously, the dog enclosure would have opening too small except for the tiniest of creatures, and there's a lot of land there that would allow wildlife movement. On the architectural fence squaring off the house, I doubt they would come that close to the house, but in the event they did, is there room on the architectural fence to allow for wildlife movement?
adjacent to the house, you want an opening
Yes.
for,
I'm just wondering, was that in the plans? What does the architectural fence look like?
it's just a wood slotted fence. So I think it's,
Oh,
it's,
okay.
yeah, I don't know the answer to that, whether they would allow animals to come in and out of there. Probably, my guess is no, given, but it's a fairly small area.
Yeah, it is. I think it's unlikely the animals would come that close to the house, but
I would agree.
more out of curiosity, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some
Okay.
cases in the past where when they're open like a U, that's a problem. Where they're attached. If it's a closed loop, most things that can get in can get out on their own. So it's a little better in that sense, but other than that, I don't know what else, commissioners. Anything else to add, commissioners? Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're originally proposing a much bigger fence, so I'm glad that this is smaller. Obviously, the ACEC is important for wildlife, so, minimizing disturbance to migrating animals and movement of animals, I think is important. They're two small dogs, that you need that big of an exposure.
Yeah, Mr. Judd, I'm getting the feeling, we're still a little, as a group, a little concerned. Is there any chance maybe we can continue this, since we got to continue some other things? And you talk to your applicant about maybe tightening that up, or at least getting it a little farther out of the ACEC? That's at all possible?
Yeah, I could certainly ask them.
Okay, why don't we do
Possibly
that?
rounding out some of those corners. I mean, that one side there is a pretty long run. I don't know if there's a way to kind of reconfigure it, tighten it up closer to the house.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, then with that, commissioners, anything else to add? Okay, why don't we move to continue this then?
You want to go to April 5th, Mr. Judd?
That would be great, only because I think this would be a fairly minor adjustment, and I will relay all these comments back to the applicant.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue Amendment 0282788 at 97 Coles Island Road to the Conservation Commission meeting of April 5th.
Charpentier seconds?
We'll call Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Sherman,
Yes.
Member Gola,
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay,
What's next? What are we down to?
I think you're recusing.
Yes, 6 Winter Haven. Yeah, I'm gonna jump out.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is NOI 028 with an unassigned DEP number, correct?
We did get a DEP number. It's 2911.
Okay, 2911. Okay. DEP NOI 0282911 at 6 Winter Haven Road. Ryan and Nicole Marks, construction of a single-family home, driveway, utilities, and vegetation removal within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland, represented by Thor Akerly, William and Sparaj, LLC. Do we have a representative?
Yes, Thor Akerly, wetland scientist and registered sanitarian with Williams and Sparaj is here representing Ryan and Nicole Marks, the property owners.
Okay, thank you. If you could give us a brief summary of the subject of the project.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen here for everyone. So this, I'll direct you to the lower right-hand corner of our plan here. This is currently a property known as 6 Winter Haven Road. It's about 4 acres in size and is situated along Essex Avenue, but also along Winter Haven Road. At this point, Ryan and his wife have gone through the process to secure some land from the Stevens who live to the north of them to create or to try to create an additional building lot on 6 Winter Haven Road. By securing some land from the Stevens, they were able to create frontage along Essex Avenue where there wasn't any beforehand. And at this point, they've filed with the Zoning Board of Appeals to allow them to grant access off Winter Haven Road for a proposed driveway rather than through or across Essex Avenue from where the property actually has frontage. So the subject of this notice of intent is for the proposed work on this proposed lot, which the lot itself does not exist yet. This is all still known as 6 Winter Haven Road. But you can see here, we have the proposed lot lines darkened and the overall lot is shown in a bit or a zoomed out scale down here in the bottom right. And then the existing lot lines here are a little bit faded. If you've been up Winter Haven Road, you're probably familiar with the area. There's only a couple homes up there. This is Ryan and Nicole's current home right here. Winter Haven Road is right here. They were before the commission, I believe, last year for proposed a sewer extension here up Winter Haven Road. At this point, that hasn't been done. We've shown them here on our plan as proposed, as John had prepared. We brought that into our drawing to kind of illustrate that piece of things. And so Ryan and Nicole are proposing to construct a single family home with a driveway off Winter Haven Road. The driveway would be on currently 6 and still 6 with an easement out to get to 4. Otherwise, you can see we have bordering vegetative wetlands pretty much surrounding the entire property. This comes out along Keystone Road and then wraps around out towards Essex Avenue. And then this line is bordered on the other side, closer to Essex Avenue, by another wetland boundary. And so again, this is all upland in here, but we do have wetland on the side to the south. Otherwise, oh, sorry, the property is.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Are we going to say something?
No, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Otherwise, the property is almost entirely wooded. The prior owners of 6 Winter Haven Road had used the property for some of their business practices. So there is an existing wood road that comes in off Winter Haven Road here. And, I'll get into the proposal a little bit more. I won't take up too much more of your time. But the driveway is proposed to mirror what exists there now, which is only to pave over that existing wood road, not to clear trees or remove any additional vegetation where the driveway is shown in the buffer zone, along where it's shown right here. And then so otherwise, really the work in the buffer zone consists of the utility connections in the driveway. You can see there will be 2 laterals off of the sewer main and water main out here on Winter Haven Road. Utilities beneath the driveway. We do need a sewer manhole here towards the where the driveway turns because of the change in direction here to avoid any issues down the road. And then out back in the property, we have only vegetation clearing. You can see this is the 100-foot buffer zone right here. Only vegetation clearing within the limit of work, which is the line with the circle line here with the round circles in it. And so this is the only other buffer zone work on the property, aside from the driveway work, which I touched on before. There are definitely slopes out here, but the existing topography is actually pretty friendly towards what they're trying to do. The house is located in a relatively flat portion of the site, as well as the backyard. So grading and earthwork in the buffer and outside of the buffer is actually pretty limited here. You can see our proposed silt fence line limit of work at least tries to preserve even parts of the non-buffer zone areas on the property that are wooded. The driveway, where work does get closer to the buffer zone down in here, we have, they have proposed to do a grass swale along the downslope side of the driveway to help capture and infiltrate some of that stormwater from the new impervious surfaces. That access road is well compacted at this point, but no question, it will be slightly more impervious than what's currently there, compared to that existing wood road. And then otherwise, the driveway, as you move up towards the house, really not a ton of earthwork. It is a relatively flat area. And then with the house, pretty limited grading and spaced sort of toward the center of the lot. And I believe that covers everything. And Ryan is also here on the call with us, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. I'll open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 6 Winter Haven Road?
We currently have 3 attendees and there are no hands up.
Okay. Close the public comment period. Let's move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier.
Yeah, I thought that I heard the applicant say that there was frontage for this property on Essex Ave. Could you just clarify that?
Yes, I didn't mean to touch on that in the presentation. So if I can share my screen again quickly. Down here in the bottom right of my of the plan, you see the property, which is highlighted in the darker shade, does now have frontage on Essex Avenue. So that was the reason for securing the additional land from the Stevens family, to create a lot that had legal frontage. If they didn't do that, they would not be able to create a lot that had enough legal frontage. So they did have to secure a variance from the ZBA to access the property via driveway off, not from the property's frontage, if that makes sense. The alternative to that would be to have to fill wetlands to access the property. This is where you'd have to bring in the driveway. The frontage is down here on Essex Avenue. And so this alternative seems to be the easiest for just about everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we wait for the rest of the commissioner comments and then you can respond to all of us?
Sorry. Yeah.
Thanks, that's okay, that's fine.
Member Cook.
I thought I heard him say that the lot that's on the plan right now has not been approved. So I question how we can approve something that isn't approved yet as a lot, because it may be subject to changing. And that's really the only question I had.
Member Gredwell.
I like the idea of not filling the wetlands. Makes all the sense in the world. Everything's fine by me. Thank you.
Member Sargent.
I noticed that the driveway, the 12-foot driveway, the water line and the sewer extension are also in buffer zones, as in the backyard. And I'm wondering how much vegetation is going to be disturbed and how much area the 12-foot driveway impervious surface is going to create. And I noticed that you didn't propose any mitigation for all this disturbance and impervious surface. And because groundwater is kind of high in that area, any dewatering must be adequately treated before being discharged into the wetlands or the buffer zones.
Member Sherman.
I'm also curious about any, I don't see any mitigation for, obviously this will result in significant wildlife habitat loss to do development of this lot. And again, there's no mitigation shown on this plan.
Member Jackson.
Yeah, and I may have a follow-up question to this too. How much of this project is actually in the buffer zone? Okay, I'm done. If you could respond to these comments, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Commissioner, is it Gradwall?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Cook. Cook asked about the lot not being approved. So that's correct. You know, it's not totally uncommon for an applicant to seek work or seek approval from the commission to do work on a property. The only approval left is the approval not required from the zoning board of appeals to create this lot, you know, but I guess the way the commission can look at it is it's all proposed on 6 Winter Haven Road, regardless of whether the lot lines or the proposed lot lines exist or not. So the work is where the work is relative to the buffer zones. That's not proposed to change at all. I suppose it's potentially possible the lot lines change eventually, but that wouldn't change any of the proposed work. And if it did, you know, the applicant would need to come back with an amendment or, you know, modification request. The question about vegetation being disturbed. So again, as we start along, I'll share my screen one more time. As we start along Winter Haven Road with the proposed driveway, this is all open. This is an existing, there's an existing wood road in here that one of the prior property owners had created up till about here. So Ryan has actually, you know, I asked him, and he said he's fine committing to not removing any trees as part of the, you know, the driveway access, because that's the area closest to the wetland. And there really isn't a need to remove them, you know, unless there was something unforeseen with roots being an issue with utility installation. You know, and there are obviously trees on the border of the driveway, but the driveway itself already exists. So no trees are proposed to be removed as part of the driveway. I don't have that exact number for, you know, this slice of work out here in the backyard that's within the buffer zone. But it's not a tremendous amount of tree clearing back here. And then again, you know, we're not talking about clearing these slopes down or anything like that. This would be the backyard area behind the house where we show the limit of work. Dewatering, Mr. Sargent, that is a good comment. I agree with you that down in here, especially, we do have a higher water table along the driveway. You know, fortunately, they don't have to do a lot of excavation in this area. You know, but I'm happy to provide a dewatering detail, you know, that we spec on most plans, you know, should they need it. That really just consists of hay bales, straw bales, you know, with a filter fabric and crushed stone base that water can be pumped into. And then as, you know, as for the foundation, the cellar floor is about 8 feet or so, 7 feet or so below existing grade. Certainly possible to hit water there. You know, the wetland is around that elevation or around elevation 66. So we probably should be a little bit above groundwater elevation, but obviously it'll depend on if they hit ledge or not. So again, we're happy to provide a detail on the plan that, you know, could give the applicant, you know, the opportunity to dewater appropriately. Yes, there is no mitigation proposed. You know, we tried to show the swale here, capturing and infiltrating stormwater. You know, it's one of those things where we try to keep everything out of the buffer zone to the maximum extent possible. And, you know, vegetation clearing is, you know, looks like it could be bad here, but in the buffer zone, it's actually not a ton. Really, the only vegetation clearing within the buffer zone is proposed back here. The driveway all through the buffer zone is actually already opened up as I mentioned.
Over here.
So I think that was, oh, and Mr. Sargent, you asked me if the impervious area as part of the driveway, that number is 3,441.3 square feet. So it is a longer driveway of Winter Haven Road, but again, the driveway is already cut in. It's the only reasonable access to the property that avoids filling wetlands. And again, we're trying to propose a swale, or have proposed a swale here to at least limit the effect of runoff from that driveway on the downslope side there. And then again, as a note, you know, if plantings are what the commission would look for, or would like to see, there might be some opportunity here along the driveway. I think there might be some open space down in here, along the property line, but most of the, other portions of the buffer zone are pretty well vegetated. And then again, the only other disturbance is back here. And so we wouldn't really have many other opportunities in the buffer zone to plant. But that's something we could explore.
I have one more question. As I'm
Yeah,
listening,
go ahead.
is that okay to go ahead?
Sure.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, you're talking about that back section. And there's going to be a disturbance over there, and you said there weren't a ton of trees coming down. So could you elaborate on that and just tell us how many trees are coming down? And if you're taking trees down, what are you going to do to mitigate that?
Yeah, so I apologize. This area in the buffer zone back here, again, this is the limit of work line. This is the 100-foot buffer zone line here. So this area within the buffer zone is proposed to be cleared to create a backyard. I don't have the number of trees. And I guess I would just ask the commission what they'd like to see, or what they are used to seeing for mitigation for trees removed in the buffer zone that feels appropriate to them.
Is the area behind the proposed house down to the buffer zone already clear? Why
No.
do they need a backyard way out there?
I mean, it's not a huge area, this is probably 60 feet. I don't think that's a extremely unreasonable backyard,
just-
and
it
most of it
looks
is outside of the buffer.
If you said, so are they clearing that whole area?
Yeah, so in this
From-
this is the dwelling right here, and then
Yeah.
this is the limit of work. So yes, this area in here is proposed to be
Oh, okay.
cleared. Yeah.
All right, okay. And so really, all that's in the buffer zone is that wedge that is in the buffer zone for the backyard and that little bitty corner of the driveway, am I correct?
Well,
Along with the stuff on Winter Haven,
yeah, it's most of
but
the,
on the-
I mean, it's most of the driveway, I'm not
but on the
hiding-
lot itself.
correct on the lot. Yeah, and
Okay.
this, most of the driveway is within the buffer. This is the 100-foot buffer right here, and this is the wetland line. So all of this work is in the buffer.
So the house is outside the buffer, all that stuff, except for that little corner of the driveway and the expanded backyard is the only part of the buffer. The reason we're questioning this is we have another very big project that has been going on for a while of proposed lots. And one of the big issues with that project is the lots have not been approved for division. And there are houses and self-contained waste systems being proposed on the lots. You're connected to city sewer, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, that helps.
Or will be. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. If you were to swing that driveway up so it was out of the buffer zone completely and forget that extension of the backyard for the moment, I would be fine. But with this other project, I'm a little wary of approving. I'd like to hear from the agent. Chuck, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the proposed driveway is, in a already cleared area. I don't think that was clear in the proposal, but when I went out there,
Okay.
you see it was out there. I guess I would be curious about, snow removal and snow storage. There's a way to put that outside of that buffer zone. That might be something good to see.
I would say it would be very difficult to do that because you'd be plowing uphill to get out of the buffer zone here. I would say, if Ryan's okay with it, I've seen commissions be open to using I'm forgetting the word, less, there's de-icers that aren't as harmful to the environment that can be used and can be, conditioned so that they, the commission has some teeth. to not allow them on the property, you know, if they're concerned about de-icers being, you know, present and then, you know, reaching the wetland eventually.
Yeah, or at least maybe putting it, you know, towards the end of that straight run or something like that, where it's a little bit further from the actual wetland. Down on the other side, if there's, you
Or
know,
like in here.
yeah, just so it's, you know, not right next to the wetland.
That's a good point.
Just yeah, something to think about.
And I guess I can come to terms with the proposal in terms of the lot not yet approved, simply because none of the structures are within none of the structures on the lot itself are within they're all outside of the buffer zone. So we wouldn't have any jurisdiction over that anyway.
But wouldn't we normally require, I mean, if he's gonna clear trees, that section in the back where they're gonna put the yard.
Yeah.
What we would be requiring, that what we need actually would be a count of all the trees that are being removed. And we typically ask a 2-to-1 replacement. And we'd like to see where you're gonna be replaced, where you're gonna be putting those trees.
I agree with you on the need for a plan for that. I think it's 1-to-1 outside the riverfront mitigation.
But a great deal of this property it's not subject to the, it's only a small portion of that area that's subject to the riverfront, so.
It's not
There's
riverfront.
no riverfront present.
Yeah, buffer
Yes.
zone to
Buffer
BVW, but
zone.
you're right, Barry. It's that little corner of the driveway, and it's the extension beyond the buffer zone of the backyard that they want to clear. That's the only part, those are the only parts that we have to, and in Winter Haven Road, because that also falls in the buffer zone. But as for the property, the lot itself, those are the only two parts that we have jurisdiction over. So it's up to the commission how they want to feel. I think if you come in with a plan providing 1-to-1 mitigation with a tabulation of the trees that are there and those that are going to be removed, that would be helpful. Can that be done?
Yes, yeah, we can take a look at what exists back here and come up with an area that makes sense to plant them.
Okay, and Chuck, what is our criteria for trees?
I think it's often 2-to-1 just because of, you know, potential for not surviving. The riverfront is an area calculation.
Okay.
2-to-1 for impacts. Yeah.
And for trees.
But what is our
tree size.
definition of a tree? For if he's tabulating trees, what is our definition of a tree? What's the
6
diameter?
6
6
inches
inches, okay,
diameter. Yeah, DBH.
okay.
I
I'm
think
sorry,
that's
there was
a little bit excessive to be 6 inches.
That's
But as John would say, a varied situation of going from the 1.5 to the 6 inches would be best for that, with the smaller trees being closer to the wetlands and let it work in.
Yeah, just to clarify, Barry, I was saying that a tree is anything that's greater than 6 inches that's existing.
Yeah, I think he thinks you're talking about a replacement and
Right, yeah.
not existing trees that are being,
No.
would be.
Yeah, so
Yes,
count existing
right.
trees that are greater than 6 inches DBH. And then the replacement tree would be something that has a DBH of 1.5 or 2 inches somewhere.
Yeah. Okay,
But-
have you got all that, sir?
6 inches or greater, I got it.
Okay, and was there another question that was coming up? Did I cut someone off?
I was just gonna say, I think, you know, possibly, you know, shrubs or other types of plants too could be used rather than just trees. You know, to get a mix of things in there.
Does the commission
Yeah.
like to see a higher ratio with shrubs, you know, like 2 shrubs to 1 tree, or is there a preference there?
we're basically looking to replace the equivalent of the canopy area. And we're looking to provide wildlife habitat. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Say no more. Yep.
All right, native species, obviously. Okay. All right, do you think you can have all this in place for April 5th?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, Linda, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to continue NOI. Where are we here?
028
Yeah, zero,
2911.
yeah, yeah. I don't have much light over here. 028-2911 at 6 Winter Haven Road to the meeting of April 5th.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sergeant,
yes,
member Sherman,
Yes,
and member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
I will not be at the meeting, but they will see you on the 5th. All right, we need to go back to, Rob, you don't have to come back yet. We need to go back to NOI 028 unassigned at 40 Thurston Point. Has Mr. Dick shown up yet?
I do not see him present.
Okay, and did he indicate when he wanted to continue to?
He did not, he was just waiting for the number to
Oh, okay.
come out, so
All
I
right.
think
Another one for April 5th.
Don't vote on it.
Linda?
this whole meeting is moved to April 5th.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Charpentier moves to continue NOI 028, no DEP number, 40 Thurston Point to the meeting of, is that right? Yeah, for
April
April 5th.
and Gradwell seconds.
okay, roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sherman,
yes,
member Sergeant,
yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes. We didn't take up, oh, we did, yeah, your order was different from my order. Okay, you changed the order on the agenda. Okay, Rob, it's time for you to come back for Washington Street, 623 Washington.
Okay, am I still upside down?
Yep.
Yep.
yep. You don't look like the invisible man anymore, though. That's good.
Yes, you're much clearer upside down than you were.
All right, moving along. Notice of intent 28-2912623 Washington Street, Tabitha
Boom.
Bahoon. Second story addition to single family house and remodeling, sewer and water connection from riverfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, buffer zone to coastal resource, and buffer to coastal resource area. John Judd, Gateway Consultants, Inc., representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Last one tonight for me. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultant, representing the applicant for this property at 623 Washington Street. In the package, we had sent over some information, including obviously the site plan that you see before you, some photographs, but this is an existing structure right on Hodgkins Cove. I'm sorry, Goose Cove rather. And this is a proposal to add a second story for residential use over the existing first floor garage. And this project has been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. There is no additional footprint proposed outside what you see on this on the site plan. So as part of this residential use, we are proposing a sewer and water connection as shown on the plan. We are showing a proposed dumpster in the existing gravel driveway for the temporary construction process and staked erosion control sock as well, just to ensure that no work, no potential sediments enter into Goose Cove. But other than that, it's there's no expansion of the footprint from a bird's eye view, so no additional roof line or impervious area. The applicant is with us tonight. If you have any questions for either of us, we'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, first up is to get public comments. So anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 623 Washington Street may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 2 attendees and there are no hands up.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, close public comment period. Commissioner roll call comments?
Member Charpentier,
No comments?
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Gradwell,
No comment.
Member Sergeant.
I didn't see Riverfront checked in the application, and I was just wondering about that. I did look at the architectural plans that were submitted to the ZBA, and it did show that the second floor roof line cantilevered a bit over the existing roof line. And it also showed that there was going to be a covered porch where there's now a deck to the north. And so I'm just wondering, in order to offset that, maybe a little bit of plantings, that would help the riverfront area, with wildlife habitat. Thank you.
Member Sherman,
No additional comments.
Member Bella,
No additional comments either.
Member Jackson.
No comments.
Okay, that's everybody. You can respond, Mr. Judd, to the-
Yeah, we have no issue with adding some plantings to offset. I wasn't aware of that additional covered porch based on the drawings I had, but that is not an issue. It was my impression that Goose Cove is not considered riverfront, but I know in the past we have not considered Lobster Cove riverfront as well. But if that is the case, obviously it is a disturbed site. But is there an actual decision by this board on the Martha Rivers Act? The Martha Rivers map provided by DEP. It wasn't my impression that this was considered, but I stand to be corrected if that is the case. Chuck, I'm not sure if you've seen anything on Goose Cove as far as being actual river considered. I didn't believe it was. I thought the river itself on the other side of the culvert was considered the riverfront, but neither here nor there. It is, in this case, an existing situation.
Yeah, okay, so what I would do here is, I think we could still use a little bit of planting to offset the overhang.
Yeah, there's no issue with that.
And then the riverfront, I don't know if he answered your question, Dave, or,
Yeah, he a little plantings were fine, and if there's not a check mark, there's not a check mark,
all right. With that then, commissioners, any other anything to add to this?
We've had several projects in Goose Cove on this side of Washington Street in the recent past, and maybe Chuck can confirm whether we would consider that riverfront or not.
It's a tough one there. You do have some intermittent
Stream.
flow into some of these areas. It's not clear on any of the things that I've been looking at where we consider the river to extend to, if it is just tidal marsh in that area. So we just kind of threw it in there just to kind of capture it. It's I think it's a situation where it's kind of up to your determination if you consider it as part of extension of the Ennisquam or in the fingers that reach out from there. It is a gray area in my mind. But
Okay, thanks, Joe. You just, and Joe?
No comments.
Is that everybody? Anyone else have anything else to add? So I would like, we don't have to do it tonight, but it would be good to get, since seems like a lot of work, the horse might already be out of the barn, but not so much for this project, but if we could get some sort of determination check for future projects and go
Yeah.
to see what they are considering it, because again, we've already approved some, I think, that are close, so it would be good to get a final word from DEP or somebody, or whether. Waterways.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, otherwise, commissioners, we ready to vote? We ready to move forward with the motion? Or do we want to continue?
Sure. I'm happy to move forward with a motion. Is there any objection?
Nope.
No, okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for 623 Washington Street.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes?
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell,
Barry, you're up.
he's
Froze
frozen.
again.
Member Sergeant,
Yes, for the native plantings.
and 2-year monitoring.
I'm sorry.
I said and 2-year monitoring.
Yes.
Member Sherman,
Yes,
member Gullah,
Yes,
and member Jackson.
Yes.
okay. Did we close the hearing?
Oh, well, I guess we just closed the
we-
hearing. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282912 at 623 Washington Street with
Charpentier
the
seconds?
aforementioned conditions.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes?
member Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell, you there? Member Sergeant,
Yes,
member Sherman,
yes.
member Gullah,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, good night.
night, John. Hey, Rob, why don't you try hitting your Alt Control Up button?
My Alt Control up,
Yes,
Alt, where's my Alt? You gotta have an Alt. We'll play with that later. I can't find.
Yeah, we're pretty close to the end here. The next one has requested to continue to April 5th.
I'll play with it after. Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Next up, notice of intent, 20 no DP number 37 Cod Shell. How do you pronounce that? Is it Cod Shell?
caucus,
It's Cod Hall, I think.
And
Is it?
86 RR Langford Street. John Kerr to raise and rebuild single-family home, construction of driveway, invasive species removal and intermittent stream restoration and buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland, buffer zone to coastal resource area, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. DeRosa Environmental, Inc., representing.
Yes, and they have requested to continue to April 5th.
Oh,
Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 028 unassigned DEP number. How did we determine the pronunciation?
Coggeshall?
Coggeshall.
God.
Coggeshall. 37 Coggeshall Road and 86 RR Langsford Street to the meeting, Conservation Commission meeting of April 5th.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes?
member Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
yes,
member Sergeant,
yes,
member Sherman,
Yes,
member Gullah,
Yes,
and member Jackson.
Yes.
okay. So we have no certificates of compliance violations or other. So we were next up and hopefully last will be moving to executive session. Is that correct, Chuck?
It is, and I think we need to state that we will not be coming back to this meeting.
Okay, for the record, the commission is moving into executive session and we will not, I repeat, not be coming back on for any discussion or anything to do with the rest of the meeting. The meeting will be closed at that time. Now, don't we
And
have
you,
roll call commissioners to get into session?
we are actually going to log out of this Zoom meeting and we are going to go into the other meeting that I sent the link for.
But don't we have to make a motion to go into executive session and vote that way?
and when we
then-
come back in,
Okay. All right, then Commissioner Jackson moves to adjourn the meeting.
Carpenter seconds?
Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes.
Member Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Sherman,
Yes.
Member Gullah,
Yes,
Member Jackson.
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so we leave this and log into the other?
May I,
I want to know if Mr. Gulliver is going to come in the right side up or the wrong side up.
Who knows?
that, I think on DraftKings, they have odds on that.
All right. Send me that link again, Chuck, just in case. I know when I
Yes,
shut it
wha-
down, I'm
Yeah,
not.
send it out to everybody again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Thank
see you
you.
in there.
Yep.